Did you know that contestants on Project Runway usually film for 18 hours a day? And the judging process alone can take up to 7 whole hours. That's a way different reality from the 40-minute show we get on TV, right? No wonder most of the competing designers confess that it's way tougher than it looks on TV. And then there's the fact that the contestants are not allowed access to the internet or television while in the competition. Actually, everything you've ever seen them design is purely from their own imagination, inspired by their immediate environment. Now I actually appreciate their creations even more, including the bad ones. But here are 11 things that go on behind the scenes of Project Runway that you probably didn't know about. So this first one actually got me like, huh? Okay, contestants don't go home immediately after elimination so that there aren't any spoilers. Every contestant has to stay for the full competition. This sounds kind of brutal, but I'm sure they must have signed it in the contracts before the competition starts. So after the designers are eliminated and sent to the workroom to clean up their spaces by Tim Gunn or Christian Siriano, they are not immediately sent home as portrayed on the show. They are isolated, potentially for weeks, according to season 9 contestant Bert Keita. So he was speaking at a fashion press conference, and here's what he said. They don't let you go home. They basically keep you secluded, and you all travel in a pack even if you're the first person voted off. You are there for 5 or 6 weeks. They separate you and you go down to the basement and stay down there for 12 to 14 hours so that the people who watch the show cannot tell who is off the show. It's torture. I can imagine how devastating that would be. So not only were you just eliminated, but you also have to sit there for 12 to 14 hours to think about what just happened. Ouch. The second one actually quenched my curiosity because I always wondered how they did that. So Moodyyyy Fabrics closes down to the public when the designers shop there on the show. By now, we already know that the designers shop at Moodyyyy Fabrics in New York City, which should be packed full of other customers as they shop there, right? But they always seem to be the only ones, well, except for Swatch the dog, of course. But you've probably wondered how they managed to achieve that. Well, a producer of the show shared that Moodyyyy shuts down to all others whenever they are coming to shop. In her own words, we have a very close long-term working relationship with Moodyyyy, and we make sure we're posted on their schedule so they don't close too early. We tell them, hey, we'll be there in 30 minutes, and they start closing down the store for us. The third one had my jaw dropping because all along I thought Tim Gunn was stainless and free of any drama. So Tim Gunn said he hated season 14 of the show and he called it lackluster.
Not that there was ever a bad season of Project Runway. In fact, I think
there was.
You want to name a couple?
I'll name one.
What? Tim Gunn was a mentor and producer on Project Runway for many years, and he has a least favorite season. So in a 2015 interview with Entertainment Weekly, Tim Gunn said, "I'm telling you, I haven't said this very much. I hated season 14. I hated it. I felt that other than a couple of designers, they weren't working up to their potential. The whole thing was lackluster." He went on to say that he felt season 14's contestants were not hungry enough and the judges didn't offer valuable or constructive feedback to the designers. That's some serious tea. This one will get you empathizing with all the designers and understanding why sometimes they're a little bit on the edge.
Clearly, we can repeat looks here. Wow. Don't act like we're here being creative. You created the same dress 2 challenges ago.
So a filming day on Project Runway can last up to 18 hours, leaving them with only 6 hours in a day to themselves for some peace and quiet. So if you think the designers are a bit snippy with one another, it's possibly because of the difficult schedule and constant filming throughout the production of a season. Season 2 contestant Diane Eng told New York Magazine's The Cut that the designers are filmed for 18 hours a day and are often woken up with camera crews looming over them. That must be some rude shift from their regular lives prior to the show. Rhea, who is a producer on the show, confirmed this in her interview with the AV Club. She said that the shooting and work schedule for Project Runway is as grueling as it sounds. She said the contestants work until 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. and they are woken up as early as 5 a.m. the next morning to resume filming. The fifth one is rather disappointing. Here goes. A few people who have worked on Project Runway said that winning doesn't necessarily make designers famous in the fashion industry. Well, of course! In a 2015 interview with Paper Magazine, Season 4 designer Jack McEnroth said that despite the show's public reputation as a driving force in the fashion industry, most of the contestants don't go on to be successful designers. And I totally agree. And it's the same with winners of all other contests, be it music or dance. So, In his words, most people just go back to their old careers and continue to struggle. Fashion design is a cutthroat business, and even well-established designers do go bankrupt right and left. And quite honestly, the fashion industry frowns on Project Runway and doesn't take the designers very seriously. That's true. I don't know why, but it's how it is. And to further validate his observation, former guest judge Terry Edgins also expressed that the Project Runway winners don't really get a leg up in the fashion industry after the show. She told the Washington Post that one of the reasons the show lost steam was it failed to do what it claimed it would. Okay, she said that, and that's her own opinion. But in Project Runway's defense, the show doesn't promise you fame and fortune. The show promises a cash prize of $100K to $250K, a mentorship with American Council of Fashion Designers, and a magazine spread, not fame and success and everything. The designers will have to work for that themselves, and that is how it is in the real world. The sixth one is just sad. And here it goes. Tim Gunn said he wasn't paid for the first 2 seasons of Project Runway. Despite being considered one of the best parts of the show, Tim Gunn said he didn't get paid to be a mentor on the first 2 seasons of the show. In his words on an interview on the So Money podcast, the first 2 seasons I wasn't paid at all, and I didn't know that people were paid for reality television. He said it wasn't until someone approached him about representation at the GLAAD Media Awards that he realized, you know what? Actually, Project Runway should be paying me. The 7th one would really interest you. Okay, so sometimes the show auctions off designs even if they are not completed. That means you have the chance to purchase Project Runway memorabilia because some of the clothes designed on the series end up being sold on the Project Runway website. Isn't that exciting? Are you gonna buy something? Okay, season 7 winner said Aaron Henderson said at the Fashion Week El Paso press conference that clothes produced by the contestants go up for auction immediately after the show. And another contestant, Joshua McKinley Cook, said on Project Runway website, it's clearly stated that these items may or may not be finished. And as per New York Daily News, in the past, some of the designs from the show have gone up for auction as they are like unfinished, basically. Number 8. To ensure their creations are totally original, the designers are not allowed to use any sewing patterns on the show. Ria, who is a producer on the show, told the AV Club that the show limits the designer supplies to help ensure everything created is original. She said, "We don't want them relying on other people's designs or other materials, and we don't want anyone to have an unfair advantage, so we limit their resources to what the necessities are with their dress forms, their scissors, and their sewing kits. We simply want them to create from what they know and not from a pattern book. It doesn't help them, and it could also be copying. Plus, this rule keeps everyone on the same playing field." Number 9 will have you sympathizing with all the contestants. So the runway show and the judging process can take up to 7 hours to film, which is very long and means that each episode only airs snippets of the judging process. Because on the runway show, judging and elimination only take around 10 minutes of each episode. According to a producer on the show, from runway to elimination is about 6 or 7 hours. There are breaks in between to move cameras and stuff, but it takes about 7 hours. Wow! Number 10 is all about the Unconventional Materials Challenge, our favorite challenge. So listen up. A lot of thought goes into the supplies offered during the show's Unconventional Materials Challenges. And we all know that the Unconventional Materials Challenge is one of Project Runway's episodes that we look forward to each season. But in case you're new, the Unconventional Materials Challenge is a challenge during which the contestants must create stunning designs using items other than what would have been used to create clothing, much less wearable ones. So according to a producer, there's a team dedicated to creating the unusual materials for these challenges. In her words, we have a team of people whose main job is to sit around and come up with ideas, and they bring them to us and we try to visualize all the different materials. I always like it when they present it to us as a list of what's in the store, like what's in a hardware store. It helps you say, well, what could we do with that? And then we go with what we think would be the most fun, and we try to make it as different from the previous season as possible. Number 11 demystifies the reason why Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum left. So Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum left Project Runway because they said that they were being held back creatively. They cited budgetary restrictions and the show's unchanging format as a primary reason why they chose to pursue other series. Heidi Klum said, "When you do a show, someone always has to pay for it, and those people paying for it want you to do certain things, so you can't have the creative freedom." They also felt like the designer should have sewing assistants since it's a fashion design competition and not a sewing competition. Tim Gunn spoke about the show's format, saying, "We were in a lockstep in a way, in a formula that had been determined in season 1, and it perpetuated further into season 3 and then eventually into seasons 10 through 16, and we couldn't break out of it." And now for our bonus fun fact. The finalists aren't the only Project Runway designers featured at the New York Fashion Week. On the finale episodes of some seasons, a handful of finalists debut their collections at the New York Fashion Week. However, in reality, many of the season's designers create and show collections in an effort to keep audience members from guessing who the actual finalists are. That is very smart but expensive. Okay, so Culture Map Houston reported that for the season 8 finale, 10 of the season's 17 competitors created collections for Fashion Week. And Ria, who is a producer on the show and now our own personal insider, has said that non-finalists get the same amount of money and time as the finalists. They also create the same number of looks for their collection. Otherwise, people may be able to figure out who is in and who is a decoy or an eliminated designer. Wow. Which of these fun facts got you the most shocked and like, huh? What the F? Alright, my name is Jojo the Mapper. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It was fabulous. Do check out my video about Project Runway winners and where they are now, and also Project Runway judges. Okay, Laura Roach is coming for season 21. What do you think about that? Have a wonderful day. Remain stylish, remain blessed, remain beautiful. Bye.